Good morning, all. Wanted to really finish up our week of reducing the quarantine 15 with the part 3, which is, I would say, the most complex part. So why do we talk about quarantine 15? New term, had never really heard it before because it's not something that Americans have been subjected to before, but lots and lots of people with being sheltering in or just having less places to go, gyms being closed, depression, whatever, have put on weight, have weakened their immune systems, and have overall decreased their health. And what we want to focus on is how do you take that quarantine 15 back off? So in part 1, we talked about diet and exercise, the simplest, probably easiest known, eating better, cutting breads and carbs and things like that, getting exercise where you get winded, just so very important. Part 2 talked about how toxicity plays such a role in weight gain, especially that unhealthy weight gain. And regardless of weight, really what we're talking about is health, disease processes, body wearing out, hormones getting damaged or imbalanced, and how that makes you feel, along with really what it does to your body overall. So part 3, what we're going to cover is the triad of hormones. So this is probably the least understood when I go over this with people about why people struggle to lose weight as they age, why it might be easier to put it on than take it off, why they lose energy or have hot flashes or whatever it might be. So first thing we want to talk about in this triad is sex hormones. They're often ignored, but yet you see it on television. Like many people are familiar with the terms hormone replacement or low T for low testosterone. And so as people age, as they get out of the age where they're typically going to be starting families and that sort of thing, many people have depletion in their sex hormones. Men tend to have less testosterone. Of course, as women know, as they go toward menopause, it's one of those things where they, they're going to make less estrogen and that sort of thing in their ovaries or in their sex organs. The body still makes this though, and I think that's where people get really confused, is that although, yes, testosterone might go down a little bit as men age, a lot of the testosterone depletion comes from lack of physical activity, like not exercising hard, building muscle, creating the body's need to create more testosterone. Really, there's got to be a cause of why it depletes in men so quickly. Another one is excess weight. So a lot of people don't realize, but adipose tissue, fat that you don't need, makes extra estrogen. And men, when you make extra estrogen, there's an inverse ratio where you tend to have less testosterone. In women, it can throw off the correct ratios of estrogen to progesterone to testosterone. So having excess body fat, like this quarantine 15, does throw your hormones off. Additionally, not only exercise, but the foods you eat, over too many carbohydrates, again, throw off these, cause your body to make less, cause you to have too much fat, which can throw off the ratios. Stress tends to really throw these off. If you think about this from an evolutionary standpoint, people are going to be less fertile under high stress because your body's always looking for a proper time to increase your chances of survival. So I'm kind of breezing over that right now, but there's a whole science to why people are less fertile or make less of the correct hormones when they're under mental and emotional stress. So stress plays a huge role. And then we talked about age. So you think about this, as those deplete, often people are letting them deplete too much or get the ratios off because of the improper diet, gaining weight, not exercising intensely, and having too much mental or emotional stress. So if you need to change those things, watch those first 2 videos again and really help yourself out. But as we transition in age, as people get older, one of the big things is that for their sex organs, especially in women with estrogen, your adrenal glands, which are what produce some of the stress hormones that cause weight gain, like cortisol, they're supposed to take over and help produce more estrogen. The tough part is because most people have lived under such chronic stress through the majority of their adult lives. By the time they're 40 or 50 years old, they've severely fatigued or even possibly burnt out their adrenal glands, which cause them to produce the wrong types of stress hormones, possibly too much stress hormone, and not have the capacity to even create that estrogen or the right sex hormone production like they're supposed to. So there's a triad of your sex organs, your adrenal glands, and then your thyroid that all are directly related or possibly inversely related to, how easy it is to burn body fat, to take weight off, to gain weight. But also when we talk about energy, all this is related as well. So really, it's my opinion that nearly everyone should do adrenal gland repair, take certain supplements, go through certain protocols, but very few people have actually taken the time to do that or to get tested for it. Because that's the tough thing is, medically, they often don't test you for this kind of stuff because the treatment wouldn't be a drug. You hear about thyroids getting tested so often. Why? Because there's a drug for your thyroid, but there's not a drug for your adrenals. And so even though they're you could argue, or I would argue, just as important, because you would treat it with lifestyle and supplementation, it doesn't get tested medically. And so this is where testing comes so much into play, is when you have these imbalances. And if you're weight loss resistant, you should do the first stuff, the easy stuff first, but really you probably need to get tested to figure out why you're weight loss resistant and treat the right cause of the problem. So adrenal glands, like I said, produce cortisol, which is very important in certain times, like when you exercise for long distances. Cortisol is what keeps your blood sugar up and allows you to, for instance, be able to run 10 miles or run a marathon or something like that. Cortisol is also what keeps you going when you're not getting enough sleep. Caffeine raises blood sugar, but also raises cortisol. So, there are benefits to it, but most people in America produce way, way, way too much. And so that's where addressing your adrenal glands is a factor. And then the last part of that is the thyroid, which are correlated with the health of your adrenal glands and your sex organs. The thyroid has two things that I think you should know. First of all, it's a huge, huge key to metabolism, as most of you know. But again, so many people have thyroid issues and they think, oh, it's just in my family, or, oh, my doctor says I have to take this. But thyroid is very sensitive to stress. Mental, emotional stress, the thyroid is very sensitive to that. Like I mentioned already, it's sensitive to other hormones. And then the last thing is it's very sensitive to toxicity. Some researchers believe the thyroid may be the most sensitive organ to toxicity. So if you're living a toxic lifestyle, consuming other medications, eating fast food, getting pollution in your system, getting flu shots, whatever it might be, where you're getting toxicity, or like this is more relevant in women, but makeup and a lot of the personal care products, the thyroid is very sensitive to that. So if you're not detoxing routinely or checking, how your body's managing your thyroid levels, you over time can need to take a medication, which really doesn't fix the cause of the problem. So sex organs, adrenal glands, thyroid, all things that are very, very important in reducing the quarantine 15. So like I said, the people that I'm talking to that really should have this assessed are people that are weight loss resistant. So how do you assess that? Well, in our clinic, as many of you know, we have what we call the Mountain Program. It stands for MTN. It's an acronym for metabolics, or testing, toxicity, which again, I covered a ton in Quarantine Part 2, and then nutrition, which is really nutrition and customized supplementation, as well as detoxification. So our Mountain Program is run by a fantastic integrative nurse named Abby Bradford. She's able to do different types of testing. The most popular is hair testing, because it can test for hormone imbalances with the things that we just talked about. It can test for minerals. It can test for heavy metal toxicities, and it does a long-term. The reason why hair is so good is it's not a snapshot of today. It's a snapshot of the last, give or take, 3 months. So Hair testing is fantastic, but we do have the ability to do blood testing for similar things, plasma, urine. But these are going to test for how to get to the root cause of the problem. So our mountain program, the first step is two parts. The first thing you do is you come in and you're going to get a body composition assessment, and the body composition tests your body fat, but not just your total fat. How much fat is visceral around your organs, which is the worst type, and plus your total body fat, as well as body water, which is directly inverse to your body fat ratio. It also tests your metabolic age, so really how your metabolism is working. Additionally, we do a bioenergetic or biofeedback assessment, which goes in and looks at a lot of the different hormones, organ system function, gives us a snapshot of where you would need a focus in a customized program. You also do a retrospective food journal, and then you sit down and do an hour meeting with Abby, go over your current health issues, anything that you came up in the testing, how she feels is best to address it. And then also based on that, we'll have put together a customized supplementation and nutrition protocol that typically lasts anywhere between 3 and 5 months to get this health that you deserve. And so the Quarantine 15 shouldn't take you 5 months to reduce, but if you're going to do it healthy, you want to actually get the outcome. So that assessment normally is $235 for the next 7 days. We're going to do that for $185. So $185 for those first two things, all the tests and the protocol being put together for you. At that time, then there is a separate fee for the supplements and the things that you'll need, and any additional testing. But again, it's one of those things where you first have to find out what's going on. So for those people that are weight loss resistant or dealing with some of these other health crisis or issues, I strongly encourage you to consider looking at the Mountain program to figure out how to have the best health possible. You have a fantastic day.